Good morning. Hello, this is Joe. I am Joe from Stonemaier Games, and I am with.
Dave from Stonemaier Games, coming to you live from Replacement Parts HQ.
Awesome. Yeah, this is our first time. We didn't know we had to hit the go live button. We had it scheduled, and so now we're going to be repeating ourselves. We thought we were talking to y'all. But yeah, we work for Stonemaier Games. Jamie is our delightful boss to work with, and he is in Japan right now, hopefully having tons of fun. Yeah, and I'm really glad to see Tim, Nicole, Chad, Joshua, Dominic, so many people here with us. Austin, and Austin says Happy Halloween and Happy Diwali to anyone who celebrates. Yes, that's awesome.
And thanks for the kind words, Garrett. Good to see you.
Mm-hmm. And thanks for confirming, Nicole. You can hear us and see us. This is our first time, so it's a little nerve-wracking for sure. Yeah, so you may be wondering, you're seeing us and not Jamie, and that's because he's out. But we are employees of Stonemaier Games. I do mostly customer service end of things. If you email Stonemaier, you probably get a response from me, and hopefully I quickly and easily solve your problems. I love to do that. And I also manage the different web stores in Europe, in Canada, in Australia, in Asia, and of course in the US. I try to make sure that everything is in stock as much as possible, as we can do. And Dave, tell us a little bit about your days here at Stonemaier.
Yeah, sure. So I help out Joe in the inbox on busy launch days, but also every weekend. You'll hear from me. And like I said, I'm in our little co-working space where I've got a lot of replacement parts, and I pack mailers for replacements. And I also coordinate our convention presences. So that's my role here.
Yeah, speaking of conventions and roles, you just brought me some lovely chocolates of the day from Corel in straight from Belgium. Corel bought these for me, and they're super good. And do you have a chocolate of the day, Dave?
Yes, I've got some hot cocoa mix that I will be indulging in at some point. Even though the high is like 83 degrees in St. Louis today, it doesn't feel like Halloween Eve, but it's good stuff. And I'll probably put it in coffee.
Yeah, so I just sort of a general question to start off the chat. Does anyone have any Halloween plans? My Halloween plans are on Friday. Going to go to a friend's party, and I'll be dressed up as the woodsman, and I'll be going with with Red Riding Hood, and my costume is going to be very simple. But yeah, Dave, did you dress up? You went to a party last weekend, right?
Yes, my big Halloween party was Saturday night, and I wore my Ren Fair outfit because I need to get more mileage out of it because I've invested in it, and it was a good time. And then I'll actually briefly be in Portland, leaving tomorrow for Halloween. So no big, who knows what I'll get into in Portland, but it'll be a good time.
You probably shouldn't wear a costume at the airport. So.
Actually, lots of my partner and her whole team were going for the roller derby champion. I don't know if anyone's a roller derby fan, but the WIFTA roller derby championships are happening in Portland this weekend. So I'm going to go watch roller derby, and the whole team has decided to dress up on the plane, and they will be in costume on our very early flight.
That's amazing. That's great. So we've got our first questions, Dave. So what is your guys' favorite Stonemaier game? How did you come to Stonemaier? So that second question could be a long answer, and I'll try to keep it short. Right now, viticulture is really, really high, but right now I think apiary is super good for me right now. And how did I come to Stonemaier? I went to design day. I met Jamie. He was looking for some help. And sort of went through the interview process, and it all just worked out really, really well. Dave, what about you?
Yeah, so if I had to pick a favorite Stonemaier game right now, I probably still have to go with Scythe. I really fell in love with it years ago, and the nostalgia right now is going to keep it at the top. And then short version, I met Jamie and Alex and Joe through my work at a board game bar here, where they host the design day, where we host the design day. And then Joe was asked around for some help for replacement parts. I was available. So for about a year, I did some part-time while I was working at the board game bar. And then at some point it was like, hey, we could use more help. Would you be interested in full-time? And I was like, yes, I would.
Nice. And moving on to Chad's question, do any of you dabble in game design? And actually, no, I don't. I love playing games, and I love maybe a little view into my personality. I love solving customer problems. Like if someone emails me, I get immediate feedback and positive feedback of finding a solution for it. And game design is a lot of iterative negative feedback process. So it's like it just doesn't draw me as much. What about you, Dave?
Funny enough, like years ago when I first got into tabletop games, I even took a game design class in college because I found it was available for a semester. And I did dabble for a little bit after college. Nothing serious, a few prototypes on tables. But since I've been with Stonemaier, I have not gone back to it. Maybe one day.
Yeah, that'd be cool. You can bring something to design day. Chad mentions Dave's already dressed as the Woodman. Yeah, so that's basically going to be my whole costume. So yeah.
I'm trying to manifest fall. Like I said, it's October 30th. It's 80 degrees outside. I'm like, come on.
Nice. Yeah, so some people are going out to Halloween events, Haunted Mansion ghost hosts, handing out candy to neighborhood kids. Yes, I will. I'll be dressed as Dave. You're right. Yes. Sorry for people listening on the podcast. Someone says, Joe, will you be dressed as Dave? So definitely. Joshua wore the Ren Fair outfit for Halloween last year. Love
It's
you.
the mood.
Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
George asked, how's it going? Actually, this morning it's cool in Reno. It's 8 a.m. here and 10 a.m. where Dave is. So I woke up, answered a bunch of customer emails, and got ready for this. Dave, how are you feeling this morning?
Pretty good. Yeah. Like I said, it's not as early as Joe, so I'm thankful. But had my breakfast, have my coffee, made it into the office. Good shape.
Nice. Yeah, Merlin's Manor is going to play Final Girl on Halloween night. Good thematic board game for Halloween. That's a good question, too. It's a good thing to do. A spooky game. I don't know if I own any spooky games right now.
I've got at least one of the Horrifieds.
Mm-hmm.
I know I like taking that out on Halloween as it's accessible, the accessible co-op. Like, let's play a spooky game. There's our friend Eric. We played disc golf with him too, and cheering on the arch rival roller derby team in Portland.
Eric says, "Let's go, arch rivals." Yeah, that's awesome. This is a good question. Yeah, what are our hobbies outside of work, Dave? What do you do?
Recently, I'm riding a lot of bikes. I mostly commute by bike all around South City. So in doing that, I just found a couple social rides. And every Friday night we meet at the park and we ride bikes. And it's become a blast. Very quickly, it became like my Friday night plan. And then found a really good community and a good group of people. And we do much more than ride bikes. But that's currently what I'm into outside of board games.
Nice. And so you're just riding them. Are you going to races, or are you riding? You're riding with other people. You just say
a great question. It is absolutely a social ride. I'm not. We're not kitted out. We're not doing like against clocks or anything. This is a slow party pace ride. It's a very much like a community event.
Nice. And I've seen one of your bikes. You have a big rack on it, right? What do you call that bike?
That's the one. Oh, it's a cargo bike.
A cargo bike.
Yeah, with a front-loading platform, and it changed my life.
What do you carry on the rack?
Packages to UPS, when I'm getting out replacement parts.
Yeah.
There was a pizza on it last night after the concert I was at when we decided to go get pizza. Oh, because that's also great. When I went to a concert last night, it was Corey Wong, if anyone's familiar, very funky. But just I got a text from a friend. It was like, "Hey, we found your bike at the bike rack. Are you at the show?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" And then so we got pizza afterwards, and then we all biked home together. And you run into that all the time in the city, and it's really fun.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, and my hobbies outside of work are mainly rock climbing. I do a lot of that around Reno, and I go to the gym twice a week and climb on the weekends. And it's super fun. And actually, a fun little story. There was a recent competition at the gym where my partner and I won because it was like climb the most routes, not climb the hardest routes. And so we climbed the most routes, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah. Tony asks, what's your favorite spooky, scary game? And I think, I forget the name of it. I don't own it anymore. But the pandemic, the Lovecraftian pandemic, I really like pandemic. And so
The Cthulhu pandemic.
yeah, Cthulhu. Yeah. What about you, Dave?
If I picked a favorite, I've played a ton of Mansions of Madness, and we really enjoyed that too. I think another like co-op experience. Now that I think about it, I wouldn't say I'm like specifically drawn to co-op games as much, but I've just mentioned a couple. So that was always really good with some friends. So I picked Mansions of Madness, 2nd edition.
Nice. Yeah. Dusty asks, what are your first thoughts when you heard Stonemaier was acquiring Takedo? Yeah, so we didn't hear it quite in those terms. We heard it of like, well, what do you think about this? You know, is it a good idea? Just super excited. It's a really, for me, it's a really cool way for us to do something new. We get to bring a game to customers, to fans who already really enjoy. It's a really good game. It's a different process. Stamp Swap is amazing. No one heard about it before we released it. Takedo is amazing, and people have heard about it. It's just a new avenue for us, and that's super exciting. What about you, Dave?
Yeah, just as a game that I've been familiar with and have been intrigued by for years. It's beautiful, it's easy to pick up and play, and I thought it would be a great addition to the Stonemaier catalog. And really cool that Funforge was like, hey, we think Stonemaier would be a great to carry on this brand. Like, are you interested? And that's really cool.
Yeah. And one of the small little parts of my job is they'll ship me pre-production copies and then mass production copies, which has some, maybe I don't need to explain that part, but they'll send me early versions of the games that we're going to publish. And we got to see the early version of our version of Stonemaier, of Takedo. And it's really cool just seeing, our logo on the box. We played it actually last night. And a lot of fun. The game flows so smoothly. So, yeah, let's moving on. Austin's going to play Merchants of the Dark Road. That's a good one. Mm-hmm. And do you have any pets? Austin asks. I do not. I recently became kind of a cat person, but I grew up with dogs, so I love them both. What about you, Dave?
I know it's fashionable for the Stonemaier squad to be cat people. I'm not a cat person. I grew up with dogs. I love dogs. I currently don't have a dog, but my partner has a dog, and he's great. He's a hound. His name's Banjo, and he's a very good boy.
So did this come up in the interview that you're not a cat person with Jamie?
Actually, I think it came up a little later.
Okay.
We know, I had Paul Solomon in the comments, and I'm like, I know Paul's a dog person too. So we're like, hey.
Nice. Yeah, Dawson's playing more spooky games, Dreadful Meadows and Bloody Inn tomorrow. And then Last Night on Earth and Betrayal on Friday. That's a big
I know Bloody Inn. That one's solid.
Nice. I haven't played that one. Dave, what is your go-to Scythe faction?
I've had great luck with Crimea, with the yellow faction. The flexibility with the combat cards, maybe it's a little OP. I don't know. That's what I enjoy playing and have probably had the most success with.
Awesome.
If we're playing a Rise of Fenris campaign, fight me. I'm taking Crimea.
Some more spooky games, power plants, monsters on board, and zombie dice are planned for spooky games, says Nicole. So Dusty says, Joe, have you done a rock climb that has scared you enough to back out? Or are you fearless? I'm definitely not fearless. I have long answers to this type of question, but I've recently sort of reassessed. I do rock climbs outside that can be sometimes thousands of feet tall. It's not usually that tall, but it'll be at least 80 to 100 feet many times. And I get scared. The thing to remember though is that I'm always on a rope. I'm always using protection. If I fall, I'm going to fall a little bit, and then I'm going to get caught. And so it's as safe as you want to make it, and I make it safe. So I appreciate you thinking of that, and also you don't have to worry about me too much. So
Joe has shared some photos of some climbs, and it's scary just looking at them, but also beautiful spots, really cool spots. I always feel better when he's climbing over water, though.
Right.
I saw a couple little clips of now you just drop and land in the water, and it's fine.
What have you played most recently, George asked. I played Takedo last night, and then actually right before that, I played Comic Hunters, which is a game. It's a pretty cool thematic game in which you're collecting comics, and they have different first appearance and first edition, and then when there's a superhero that has a new costume, it'll say a new look. And so you're advertising all these, you're collecting all these different attributes. And they're actually real comic books, which is a cool thing. So there's all these Marvel comic books. And it was surprisingly fun. What about you, Dave?
Nice. Recently, I played Root. Me and a couple friends are big Root fans.
Right.
And with the latest Kickstarter dropping for the new expansion with some new factions, we were excited and feeling some Root. So we made sure to get that to the table. Always a good time. Very close game.
Do you have a Root faction that you really enjoy?
I've since the get-go, I really like the Woodland Alliance. They were always fun. Recently, though, there's so many factions, and I gotta dig into some other factions and see what they feel like throwing them against everybody else. I played the Badgers last time and did well. I was feeling pretty good. Near the end of the game, made a huge push, and then my friends knocked me down. And then the Corvids came from behind. But it was a close game. Good
Nice.
time.
Allies or Enemies recommends Weirdwood Manor, a new game, a new spooky game. Eric says he really wanted to go to Corey Wong last night.
Mark was awesome. Oh yeah, Mark Lettieri is featured on this tour. Which was night one, by the way, of the show, which was fun. That St. Louis was their first stop. They were killer, great vibes. Also, the opener was Couch, who I didn't consider myself a huge fan of, but they blew me away. And I'll be listening to more Couch in the near future. Highly recommend.
Nice. Carol's popping in for a quick few minutes. I really appreciate you, Carol. Thank you. Chad says, "What's your go-to player piece color?" We haven't played a lot together, Dave. So I wonder if we.
Yeah, not recently. Since you left us in St. Louis.
Right. What's your player piece color?
I usually go for green, but it's hard to be green at our usual game nights because I know Jamie, y'all have heard about Megan. Megan plays green, and they're hosting game night. I can't take Megan's player color, so I usually take what's left.
Nice. Yeah, I do yellow. Not a lot of people take yellow, so it usually works out. And we have another vote for dogs.
Thanks, David.
Yeah. Yeah, DJ Dave works for Automa Factory. He does great work. He designed the Wingspan Automa, which is great. Do you two do any playtesting for Stonemaier Games? If so, how early in the process do you get to see them? It's not an official part of my job, and I really could volunteer for it more. But the way Jamie handles it is through different waves. As soon as it's ready for blind playtesting, wave 1 will be the earliest one. And then as many waves as needed to do it, finalize the game, he'll create more waves. And so it'll get more and more refined. And that's when I might start seeing it because I'm in Reno. Dave, on the other hand, might see it before the blind playtesting waves. How would you describe that?
Yeah, so I wouldn't consider myself, a playtester on a regular basis. Like Joe described, there's like waves of like serious playtesting that happens. But every once in a while, being here, the team will get together with like, hey, here's an idea and here's a prototype, and is this worth pursuing? And that's really fun to see. Versus, hey, here's a pre-production copy that Joe also mentioned. And when that comes in, like, we'll play that and like, okay, any more tweaks? What's feeling good? Sometimes that turns into like UI stuff that now's our chance to make some changes. But that's the amount of playtesting I see.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, I like to describe Stonemaier as it's very true, a small company. Like we all do a lot of everything, and so we'll dabble in. I'm doing customer service, but I'm also checking manufactured copies of games. And Dave will do a random play test here and there. So it's really great to have a varied workplace in that way. This is a good question for you, Dave, too. If you had to choose a meeple to represent you, what would it be?
Yeah, this is my partner, Katie.
Oh, right. Okay, so does she already know the answer for you?
I'm happy to ask you, but I'm trying to choose if it's like I said, I like the green player color, but otherwise, I can't help but think of the viticulture worker meeples because they're so cool with their little capes and hats.
Capes and hats, nice. Yeah, I've never seen a meeple like this, but I would choose a capybara meeple. That just comes to mind.
Oh, okay. I like it.
Yeah, I like hot springs. Capybaras like hot springs. So yeah. Nicole says Banjo is an excellent name for the dog that you mentioned. Yeah. Melissa already played Mysterium, which is a great spooky game. Might get Horrified or Arkham Horror out.
Oh yeah, good pick.
Yeah, so this is a dog versus cat people chat. Dusty says, dog people unite. I like cats, but I'm allergic enough to have required shots to stop severe allergic reaction. Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
I think Dusty knows I'm actually allergic to cats too.
I used to be, and then I just lost it after I started living with cats. So, yeah.
Oh, good. I just take my Zyrtec and hope for the best. Usually it's fine.
Yeah, so Tony asked us an interesting question. Are you guys backing anything on Kickstarter? He usually asks Jamie that. But me, kind of easy, but maybe it needs an explanation, is no. I tend to go for retail games, and I have friends here in Reno that buy all the games, so I don't have to. What about you, Dev?
Yeah, I mentioned that the new Root expansion's coming out, so I'm definitely backing that. I almost want to like log in and check. I'm like, what am I backing? Root, and then I know I'm also in for. I used to play a lot of D&D, or more than I do now, but I'm a fan of Matt Colville and his ethos and company. He runs MCDM, and they've got a new tabletop RPG called Draw Steel, and I backed that. I backed the books for that. So that's what I've got on me.
Nice. Yeah, so Edward asked, if you were to design a game, what would be the theme and mechanic? Dave, do you have any ideas?
That's a really big question.
Yeah, so I'm thinking like a theme. I'm tending towards like maybe an IP I really wish existed, and then I think Dune, and the Dune Imperium game is amazing. So this is a cheat answer, but if I were to willfully try to create a game, it might be Dune Imperium. But deck building's really nice. Worker placement is amazing. Two of my favorite mechanisms, and I don't know. That is kind of a cheat answer. Dave, do you have any ideas?
I'll fall back because I mentioned way back in college I had a couple little designs that at the time I was excited about. I had a little, I guess, tableau builder that had a tower defense mechanism going on. And the theme actually changed. It was in space and you were defending a space station. It was very cool. But things to think about, these are random alien spaceships and people don't know how like big or strong they are, versus if I make it a medieval theme, everyone knows that cavalry is bigger and better than a footman. And it was just intuitive in that way to be like, okay, I'll do this. And everyone knows the dragon is bigger and better than a goblin. And that's where my team was coming from. But that gameplay came first.
Nice. Yeah. So are you more of a fantasy person or a sci-fi person?
I really love Star Wars. And everyone will argue that's actually more fantasy than like sci-fi.
I mean, that's a good point. But yeah, I mean, people say fantasy, you think dragons and knights and all that.
Yeah. I think you mentioned how like Dune you're into at the moment. This was also at the time when Game of Thrones was big and hot. And I think that might have also affected my decision to be like, ooh, this fantasy world is exciting right now. So affected my decision for sure.
Dawson says Root is the best game, Lizard Cult all the way. Merlin's Manor plays green as well. Blue is his second favorite.
Also, Green Team wins. Great party game. Highly recommend if you haven't played it.
Nice. Megan kicks butt all the time. She needs a handicap, says Dusty.
Cool. I'll tell her Dusty said so.
Yeah, and Chad is a blue player and also a dog person. Yeah. Allies or enemies? Dogs? All right. Maybe we're outnumbered. It says dogs all the way. Bigger and fluffier, the better. That's awesome. Any stories when you destroyed Jamie in a game? Says Chad. I have one. I don't know about destroyed, but I did beat Jamie in viticulture once. I think I've only played him once, but it's not always. Jamie is very good at viticulture, and I've played a ridiculous number of games of viticulture before I started working for Stonemaier. But Jamie is different because he likes to try different strategies. You know, he just sort of like, he finds a card and he thinks it's cool and is like, oh, I've never done this. And so he goes a different direction, a lot of different games, which is maybe good for him as a game designer to test the limits of games. So I'm not saying Jamie's a bad player, but he sometimes has different incentives than just winning. Dave, you have any thoughts?
Sure. Yeah, I think with your comment on like Jamie does like to pick, I'm going to interact with this piece a lot. And maybe because now Root's on my mind, and this was quite a while ago. Not that we destroyed Jamie, that feels rude. But I think he played the Eerie and was just like, ooh, okay, I can playing with this mechanic of stacking up actions turn by turn, and kind of was playing it safe and experimenting with what he could do. But it can be a very mean, aggressive game. And if I remember correctly, had Jamie played a bit more aggressively, maybe would have done better. But that was a fun game. I remember that. It stands out.
Nice. Yeah. Erica, our wonderful coworker, is here, and she also likes capybaras. So that's awesome. Joe has been capybara energy. They're so chill and seem to fit in with all groups. We need to talk to Meeple Source about getting you a Cappy Meeple. Maybe we need a Cappy game. I don't know. There's a few out on the market, and I need to try them out. Chad asked favorite game of all time. We've talked about our favorite Stonemaier games, and there may be overlap. Viticulture has a strong place in my heart. Pandemic, Dune Imperium is. I'm looking at my shelf over here. Dune Imperium is a recent game I've really, really enjoyed. What about you, Dave?
Battlestar Galactica holds a very special place in my heart. Along with, I love Star Wars Rebellion, and the aforementioned Root remains really high on my list for sure. Love those. Oh, and I love Corey Konitzka games, if that's relevant. Battlestar Galactica and Star Wars Rebellion share a designer.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I didn't know that name offhand. Nice. Yeah, Dawson back to the Kickstarter conversation. Dawson backed Sweetlands, new adorable but heavy Japanese game made by the same people who did Ostia and Aqua Garden. Yeah, so favorite board game mechanics and or games overall. Kind of answered that, but mechanisms is an interesting question. I've been really digging cooperative games recently. I just like the feel of sort of a table, not just playing within the magic circle of the rule set on the table, but also like working together. So that's what I've been digging recently. What about you?
I think some push your luck games have been scratching an itch for me recently. Things like Cracks of Quedlinburg is a classic. And I taught that to a few friends recently. And in the context of some trick-taking games, I'm still pretty big on some trick-taking games with a couple friends in the group. And sometimes that can feel like, ooh, I'm going to like shoot the moon ideas, and definitely feels like pushing my luck or I'm taking 0 tricks, see what I can do. It's good.
Nice, yeah. I love trick-taking games as well. There's so many cool things out there. Tim asks, are you going to accidentally reveal some spoilers? And I really thought about it. Dave even just sent me a new product, but that's not our place.
Jamie, I just got to keep the camera faced this way. And then
right. Yeah, Dave actually right now is in the replacement parts sort of like office, and so he's got so many just little bits and bobs. I used to do that job, Dave, and send out packages, every day, and it was really cool sending out little, like, completing people's games, little packages of 1 or 2 pieces that people really, really needed to have a complete game, and that's such a cool experience.
Yeah, I'm really glad to be able to do that, and because I had asked for a component in the past years ago from like Fantasy Flight Games, and they sent it to me. Like, it came in the mail, and I was thrilled. It made my day. So I hope that when these little wingspan cubes and dice show up in people's mailboxes, that it makes their day.
Nice. Do you have any recent, maybe this is a broad question, but do you have any recent stories of requests that were kind of interesting or unique, or someone you got to make their day?
Interesting. Oh my gosh. I'm not sure.
No, that's okay. If you think
so many like tiny wingspan cubes go missing.
I remember, a lot of it's kind of my list. Yeah, sometimes
get beat up. My favorite post, if you are ever in the unfortunate place where you need to go to the form, if you include a photo of the pet that destroyed the component, it does bring a smile to my face. So those are my favorites.
Nice. So this is an interesting question. What's your board game origin stories?
That's a great question.
Yeah, so I was.
What was your game?
I was bitten by a radioactive board game one day. Like board games for me, especially early on when I started playing them, it's such a fun structure to be social. It's a way that you don't have a lot of pressure to worry about what you need to say. You have a rule set, and it works with maybe a certain personality type, but it's also just so fun to interact with people in a very structured way in that way. And so my origin was I was looking for that. I was looking for that in my life, a way to interact with people socially with some structure in mind. And it's kind of funny. Like I started that way, and I like sort of midweight Euros, and that's why I work for Stonemaier. And now I'm actually getting more into social games, where there's less rules. You know, there's more about the interpersonal connections and less about the rule set. Like I picked up The Mind again recently, which I really didn't like because it was too undefinable. But now it's super fun just try to connect with people psychically. You know, what about you, Dave?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Joe's answer on like social structured like events, interactions, and it does, I think, attract a personality. But I was let's see, played some little games coming up, but in freshman year of college, a friend in the dorm introduced me to Dominion, which was brand new. So he's like, want to play this new card game? And that deck building idea blew me away. And very quickly, I started digging up whatever I could, tabletop games as much as possible.
Speaking of Dave, Johnny says, tell us about your favorite D&D character you've played.
Ooh, I played a little goblin rogue, an arcane trickster, who I'm trying to remember all the magic items that I currently had. A dagger that could let me see in the dark. So it was really fun when some of my other party members would, turn down the lights in whatever way they could. And then I could dash in the dark and do rogue things.
What was the rogue's name?
It was really fun. Upchuck was the name of the rogue.
Yeah, and I've actually D&D has never drawn me. There's usually more commitment than I'm looking for. I like the one table sitting sort of board games. So
it is the commitment, but I think we were just talking about like the social structure, less structure in the RPG, depending on your group, but just the ritual of like, all right, it's Sunday night, and we would get together at a little neighborhood bar and play in their little back game room. And it was great. It was a really fun time. We played for years.
Nice. Dawson asks, have you played Cafe Barras? Back to the capybaras topic. I've seen pictures of it. It looks super cute, and I have not played it.
Have not gotten to play.
Yeah. Favorite Stonemaier Games component, and why is the correct answer the queenship from Apiary? Oh, that's a really good question, Tony, because we one of Jamie's big things, yeah, and I like to say one of our big things is finding I forget what he calls it, but some component that really draws people in, like the dice tower and Wingspan, or the landmarks in Tapestry. And I think my love of viticulture makes me really enjoy in Tapestry the landmark that looks like the little villa. It's in one of the expansions. Mm-hmm. And I look at it and I just think that's a perfect representation of viticulture. And so that's probably my favorite component. What about you, Dave?
That's such a good question. And when I think I'm surrounded by components, I kind of want to like take a step back and look at all the shelves to be like, what is my favorite? Loving Scythe. I think just all those minis inside. I know like miniatures aren't specifically special in a game. So many cool mini or not games have so many minis, but just that set of mechs and our leader, and I always loved like from our player map, the double layer player map was also dope. And like this little station and I'm deploying my mechs was really fun, and that left an impression on me. So I pick the mechs inside. Nice.
And you're right, Tony. The queenship is really, really cool. I love Apiary. It's one of my new favorite games, and the queenship is amazing. Merlin's Manor also recommends Cafe Barras by Kids Table. This is going to be a hard question for you, Dave, I think. Dave, I need to play games. Star Wars Rebellion, Battlestar Galactica, Scythe. Yes, please. Stuff. Yeah, so, it's not even a question, right?
It's just, hey, we need to get together and play games. Like, when you're in St. Louis. Let me know.
Oh, and he's going to wear flannel too. So he says, Anthony says, you would like Cyber Pet Quest for cooperative play. Yeah, I mean, it sounds cute. I like, I don't know if it is cute, but it sounds cute. I like pets and cooperative play. That sounds great. I'll look it up.
Nice.
So let's see what Dusty says here. Acknowledging that it's 100% opinion and not all games are for everyone. What is one title you absolutely refuse to ever play or ever play again?
Do you have one, Joe?
You go first.
Okay. Maybe not a cop-out, but I will say the last time that some friends really, really wanted to play Munchkin, I just played a lot of Munchkin. I introduced it to friends, and they loved it so much, they bought every version they could find and then shuffled the decks all together. And there was this huge deck of Munchkin cards on the table, all mixed themes. And I'm like, what are you doing? But I've played a lot of Munchkin. I played probably too much Munchkin. And the last time I played, I'm like, look, I will play, but we are putting a 30-minute timer on. And whoever's the highest level at the end of 30 minutes, we call the game instead of, knock them down because they're about to hit level 10, knock them down, and the game just goes on too long. So that's my answer.
Nice. Yeah, that'll create a lot of tension in the last 5 minutes of the game, you know, just trying to like maybe save the right cards or like play them just in the right order. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't have a lot of hate for any games, but there are games I'm not as drawn to. My group just recently played Arcs, and it's really fun, really cool. And also, it's not my style of game, you know?
And you tried it, check, done.
Yeah, well, my group still wants to play more of it, but also it kind of can run a little bit long. And so we actually couldn't finish our first game at the board game bar here in Reno called the Glass Die. A little mention of that. Super nice place. But yeah, so that comes to mind. I certainly don't hate, and I am going to play it again with them. But
awesome. And surprising, probably no one who's been paying attention. I love Arcs. And we did play through a little campaign, and I'm looking forward to more.
I like Root a lot better, but also, I mean, they're both good games. You know, I still like them both.
That was the decision last week when we played Root. It was like, all right, y'all, we could play Arcs, but the Kickstarter dropped like today. Like, do we play some Root? Because we're feeling it. It was a good time.
I like that too. You know, I've noticed that in the past where there's a Kickstarter for a expansion. It gets me excited about the game I own again, and that's a fun feeling. Carell, who bought me my amazing chocolates and we work with quite often, says, thanks to the excellent replacement parts service, I now have a spare viticulture meeple. My cat once got rid of one, and 1 year later, we found it hidden in one of her baskets.
That's awesome.
Your cat didn't get rid of it. It was saving it for later, you know?
Yeah. Thanks for stopping in. Carell was a huge help at Essenspiel. Was in the booth with us.
Nice. Edward's board game origin story started with Dominion. Yeah, that's one question I didn't think of. Like, what board game really like introed us into it? Yeah, the thing that got me super excited about board games and like, wow, this is what board games can be, was Pandemic Legacy, the season 1.
Yeah.
And after that, we really got into. I don't remember if it was Pandemic before that and then Legacy, but. Really got into Pandemic and then viticulture and a bunch of others. What about you?
Very cool. Yeah, that's what Edward was saying. I was introduced with Dominion. So it's still on my shelf for sure. Probably for that reason. I haven't played it in a minute, but every once in a while when a friend is like, ooh, I really want to play Dominion. It's like, yeah, sure. And I play it and I'm like, this is awesome. We should play more. I have a couple expansions.
Nice.
It holds up.
Dusty has met us in real life. The D&D character Dave just cried fits the Dave I know. Arcane Trickster Goblin, amazing. That's great. And Dusty, thank you so much for interacting so much. I know we've asked Jamie before, but this is good for both of you. What game from another publisher really fits the Stonemaier ethos that you wish y'all published?
I picked Takedo.
What game was that?
I picked Takedo.
Oh, right. No, yeah.
Jumping
Um,
in.
yeah, I
You know,
don't know. I feel like we really like I'm so close to the Stonemaier Games, the games that we publish, that every other game just feels different. You know, like this, I feel a lot of ownership and joy in having these games go out, seeing the Tapestry like fan group really interact with all the different tips and tricks and all the Wingspan. Um, I do a little bit of moderation on the Wingspan Facebook groups and things like that. Just seeing them talk about birds in different ways, or board game fans talk about birds in new ways. I love all of these things, and I think of all the other board games as just slightly different. But if we started publishing them, then I would get close to them. So I
yeah.
don't have a great answer for that.
I think, like I mentioned, I recently taught Quacks of Quedlinburg, which is very popular for very great reasons. It's not the mid-weight Euro that kind of identifies Stonemaier at times, but it is still meaty enough to be like the event game of the evening. And it's absolute like smiles around the table. And in terms of like bringing joy to tabletops, like Quacks of Quedlinburg absolutely does. So
You're right. That's so good. No, that's a good answer. And I love the change from every previous round to the last round, where you all do it like one at a time. It just amps up the tension, and it's that's such a fun game. Chad asks, how has your taste in games changed over the years? I kind of mentioned, I'm into more social, more cooperative now, even though I've always enjoyed cooperative. But I used to follow Kickstarters more. I used to have a huge collection, and I'm much more comfortable narrowing it down and letting friends own other things that I love playing. Just a little less urgency, and in that way, more fun. Just enjoying whatever my friends want to bring over for the game night. What about you, Dave?
yeah, I think we have similar paths when you put it that way.
Hmm.
Especially, I think it's very common for when you find the hobby and you find these like big chunky meaty games and you're like, oh yes, this is like making my brain burn, this is awesome. You find that group that wants to play, try and fill your shelf with every game that you come across that you had a good time with. And at this point I'm like, my shelves are full, I need less games, give me more small games, give me more social party games. Like I'm very happy to play these party games with anyone who's excited to play. um, and lots of like little card games that I was not into when I started the hobby. I know kind of when, uh, let's see, trick taking had a bit of a renaissance, and I definitely came into that when The Crew came out. I loved The Crew, and lots of little card games, and just fitting in. Hey, we don't have the time for a 2-hour Euro, but I brought this card game, and it's easy to just like sit down and play.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Allies or Enemies says, what game would you show brand new players if you were introducing them today? Dave, thoughts?
I think I'm thinking of what's on my shelf. Um, I just said Quacks of Quedlinburg because I taught it to some folks that don't play games all the time. There's a recurring theme. It's just fun. Um, and we were also talking about Takedo, and honestly, like it's such an accessible, easy to pick up and play game. That's beautiful. Not too mean. It can be a little bit of like block your friends. You've got a decision to make, but the whole theme of like we are traveling down this road and whoever has the best, most relaxing journey wins. And it's a good onboarding to like, no, these board games aren't all just like war games or fantasy games or something.
Yeah. That did, since I played it last night, it immediately came to mind again. Takedo is such a good intro game. But the question is kind of complex too, because what level are people ready to be introduced to? The mind is great just because it's super simple, but also, I don't know, like just one is an amazing. But if you're trying to get introduced into Stonemaier games specifically, then yeah, Takedo. It is amazing. I'm super glad again to have it in the catalog. Dusty's leaving his lunch hour. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Dusty.
Edward, have you played Stranger Things Episode Down? I haven't even heard of it. Same designer as Pandemic, had a strong Pandemic feel, but still feels different. I'm really going to have to look that up. Thank you so much.
Yes, sounds like we should look it up. I'm unfamiliar.
Johnny says, any good bands or albums you've been listening to recently? Dave?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier I was just at the Corey Wong concert last night. But otherwise, next month, I'm going to see one of my current favorite bands, Bendigo Fletcher, is coming to town again. I'm playing at a small venue. And I've really been digging them. And I love their album, Fits of Laughter. Remains my favorite, if you want to look at it.
Nice. Yeah, I am just looking at my my Pandora station here. A new band I kind of found was Buke and Gase, Buke and Gase. I think that's how you spell it. Just really, I like it. I don't know. So Chad says, Marvel, DC, or Garfield? Definitely Marvel for me. I've been really enjoying the Agatha All Along show going on right now. Dave?
You know what? I'm going to pick DC because the recent Batman cartoon. I was a really, really huge Batman the Animated Series fan growing up. It made me love Batman. I will still say Batman's my favorite. And the new animated Batman got me.
So the new live action Batman isn't on that list for you, or?
I didn't see the Robert Pattinson Batman, and I'm not sure what other Batman movies are coming out. I think I feel a bit behind on some of the Marvel, to be honest.
Oh yeah, it's hard not to be behind on the Marvel stuff. Yeah, but the new Robert Pattinson Batman was really good, and the Penguin show going on right now on HBO, I've been really enjoying as well. Let's see. Ray asks, favorite part of your respective jobs. I've kind of mentioned it a little bit, but being able to solve problems. And you know, Stonemaier is great in that I'm not pressured to make money in my customer service role. I am not like, oh, you know, you can't ship a new game to them because that would cost us too much money. I just solve problems. You know, someone emails me, and as best as I can, I try to solve it as quickly as I can. And that also often means we need a system in place that works quickly and easily to ship products from fulfillment centers. And so that's also part of my job that's pretty fulfilling. It's just making sure every level of solving problems works well. What about you, Dave?
Nice. Yeah, I mentioned hoping that like I make someone's day, but mostly just because I had that experience. Back in like 2016, I needed a singular token from a Game of Thrones, the board game, that are all very important and secret hidden role tokens. And I'm like, oh no, I'm missing one for this house. I can't play this house. And it showed up in the mail, and I was thrilled. And it really left an impact on me.
It is cool getting that little package of like one little piece, isn't it?
Yeah,
cool.
This is exactly what I need.
Johnny was at Johnny Dolan was at
awesome.
Yeah,
endorsed by Johnny as well. The Corey Wong Show.
Yes.
Just starting the tour. Go find it. You won't regret it.
Yeah, Joe says, Greg says, great interacting with us in fixing problems, usually order mistakes. That's great. Great to see all of y'all. We are just a few minutes before 9. Ray also recommends the Robert Pattinson Batman. He says surprisingly good, which I would say as well. Greg says he met Dave twice at the last 2 Geekway to the West conventions. 2 really great people. Thanks for all you do.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah. That's really sweet. Thanks for coming by the booth.
Mm-hmm. And this has been great fun. You might see some other interesting people next week, as long as there's no technical issues. And maybe we'll do this again sometime in the future, you know, next year this time. So have a great week. Let us know if you have any issues we can solve. Send me an email. See y'all.
This was a really good hour. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.